Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel where we dive into the most gripping Reddit stories. Today's topic is one that hits close to home for many: gaslighting. We'll be exploring stories of manipulation, twisted truths, and the emotional impact of being told your reality isn't real. If you've ever been made to feel confused or doubted your own experiences, this one's for you. Get ready for some eye-opening tales that shed light on how gaslighting works and its effects. Let's get into it. Story 1. Finally, my experience with narcissistic abuse comes in useful. My last narc ex, we had been living together for 3 years at the time. She was walking all over me all the time. One day while visiting her hometown and parents, she didn't like my disagreement with her and literally kicked me out of the house. We lived abroad, so all of a sudden I was in the middle of the street, closest friend living 300 kilometers away, having to go back to the UK all of a sudden on my own. She never apologizes, never addresses it. When she comes back to our flat, she has her mother and grandmother with her for holidays, for 3 weeks, so still, no resolution, not even talking, just putting up a nice face for her guests. When they finally leave, I ask her to talk about what happened. She just goes, "I don't care, I don't have time for this," and goes to leave the room. When she walked next to me, I take her hand to stop her. That became the thing she held against me for the next year, that I assaulted her, that I grabbed her, that I hit her, that I showed her in the wall, kept on escalating, that I was mentally unstable, that she couldn't be in the same room as me alone 'cause she was scared of me. She went full on dragon lady on me every single fucking time she didn't like something. Once because I made her lunch and served it to her in the wrong plate according to her, but always played the scared victim if the subject came up with others. Towards the very end of our relationship, I went home one day with a friend to have a witness and not have her scream at me, cornering me. It was enlightening to hear her say she had to be scared of me while our mutual friend had to point out what she was saying was not matched by actions, since she was the one screaming and cornering me, being antagonistic, and I was scared to make a peep and was just saying sorry and okay, hoping to make her stop. That was my last narc though, thank God. Story 2. My ex gaslighted the shit out of me for everything. He went vegetarian one October and started telling people he had been vegetarian for a year or so prior. When I called him out, he said something like, "Why you're saying that, because it's not like you really know my eating habits. I never said anything to you about it, so don't tell people I did." He did, in fact, tell me about it and asked me his options for food. We had even gone to the grocery store and I answered a couple questions about what was vegetarian and not. Sometimes he'd get out of practice early, so I'd go pick him up, as a favor. He'd say earlier in the day it would end at 10 p.m. or whatever, and I'd be there at 10 p.m. He would be mad because practice ended early and I should have come when he called, but had no proof he called. So he'd say earlier in the day it was actually 9:30 when practice ended. No. They just ended earlier. Another time I picked him up on a busy road and he was taking his sweetest time getting in my car. A public bus pulled up behind me, but not fully in the lane because I had temporarily parked there to pick him up. He was standing there talking. So naturally, I told him to hurry and started getting mad. He must have kept me waiting for like 15 minutes before and 5 minutes after the bus got there. When his ass finally got in the car, I was pissed. As any normal person would be. He pulled the "I just got there, you were unnecessarily panicking" card. Oh my God, he made me so angry on so many occasions. He refused to accept his behavior and everything was always my fault for being outrageous/overreacting. What was hilarious was the year after I had broken up with him, he texted me saying he behaved poorly in that relationship and wanted to get back together. I told him he should be sorry and there's no chance. Then he began acting as though these occasions were not the problem he was apologizing for, and was actually apologizing because he felt we did not do things together enough. Ran over, but damn, gaslighting sucks. Gaslighting over stupid shit sucks more, because you're always doubting your own memory and whether or not the subject in question matters, so you just give in. Story 3. I opened up my relationship with my husband and discovered polyamory and kink. I was brand new to the kink community, but, I'm a smart person and I was in my later 22nd and I didn't realize how vulnerable I was. Met this guy who claimed to be polyamorous. I was thrilled because he was cute and dominant. I fell for him really hard and fast. It probably helps when the other person can read you like a book and tell you all the things you want to hear. He'd lie constantly about the details of his life, but the lies were so small and barely perceptible. He claimed that his wife was in the know about his sexual activities but didn't want the details or to meet any of his other partners. This is not something I'd tolerate today. He's also tells stories about a reoccurring cast of characters including a crazy ex-girlfriend or two, and someone he referred to as the ex who he still apparently hung out with. It's hard to pinpoint the major examples of gaslighting because it was constant "no you didn't say that, I never said that, you misunderstood, you're not going crazy are you? I'm afraid you might be crazy, we'll have to agree to disagree, I should be sorry. What about you?" His texting habits also drove me crazy, because he'd get engaged in a conversation with me, sometimes arguments, and then just stop responding when he knew I was riled up, sometimes for nearly whole days. There was sexual abuse but nothing as straightforward as outright rape, although it left me feeling just as violated. For example, he convinced me to put on a blindfold during a kink session and then didn't wear a condom, or led me to believe in the morning that he didn't wear a condom. It's confusing, even though this was a requirement we talked about many times. He also started dating a good friend of mine and pitted us against each other with lies and misunderstandings and inciting purposeful jealousy. I think he overplayed his hand on this one though, because eventually I admitted to her that I was emotionally not okay and wanted her insight, and then she confirmed he had done many of the same things to her but using custom tactics to maximize the exploitation of things particular to each of us. The other factor of the beginning of the end is that my husband got fed up with my crying every day about the asshole, and finally couldn't hold his tongue anymore. Actually, he said all the perfect things in a non-controlling, supportive but firm "this is bullshit" type way. So I met with asshole to have one last rendezvous and break up, but he was so charming that at the end of the conversation all I managed was "I feel overwhelmed and think I need a break," to which he responded, "Of course. I thought you were overextending yourself and I've been worried about you. We can get together whenever you're ready." Sounds nice but obviously has the implication that I was at fault. This was all over the course of 3 months, by the way. Well, my friend and I compared more notes, and I found some of these crazy exes he had mentioned and of course got uncanny creepy stories from them too. One of them had dated him for 4 years and he casually tossed in something about his wife near the end of their relationship, then he tried to play it off like he had told her that in the beginning. She thought they were monogamous. The ex turned out to be some poor woman who he had been engaged to for 3 years. She knew about his wife, but he had told her they were in the midst of a divorce, just need a little more time. He spent holidays with her family and babysat her grandchildren sometimes. As far as I know, he is still with his wife and has at least one new long-term girlfriend. I sent warnings to moderators and members of some of the local kink clubs, but it was honestly an incredibly frustrating and mostly fruitless trial. Anyway, I haven't run into him for the last several years, but I know he is still kicking around some of my old circles and I hope I continue to stay lucky.